Hey people, it's April 30th. It's a good day in South Mississippi. We're getting a little rain today and got some last night. And now I'm fixing to get all kind of racist up in this video. My gladiolas are showing color and they're about 3 weeks early this year. They usually wait till Mother's Day. They're proud. They'll show that color off in the dark. I don't like rabbits. If I catch this rabbit that's been wreaking havoc on my corn, I will barbecue his ass. Wish he'd come over here and eat some of this castor. They're all looking pretty. Them red castor seeds was real ill. The only one I had last year, it didn't quite develop. And so the seeds were kind of light and small, but they all seem to be coming up anyway. But this rabbit done devoured 2 rows of my corn. That's why I put these up here in this bucket. And this cabbage looking beautiful here. I put my squash up in a bucket and I see a flower coming out on it. And I believe it'd be easier to keep them worms out. I put some Epsom salt on that root today. And my sweet potato took root. It looks good. So it's going to crawl up this cage I built for it. That and cucumbers. And my pawpaws like the rain. It's going to have many fruit on it. But there's nothing wrong with being racist. We're all born that way. You know, it's natural. All the animal kingdom is born racist. I think the plants are racist too. Some plants just won't grow around each other. But, you know, I like, reptiles and spiders. And if I see a man fighting with a bear or a lion or something, I'll probably help the man. But if I see somebody trying to kill a snake or squash a spider, I'm probably going to be on the spider side. But if I catch that rabbit, I'll barbecue his ass. So your level of racism is directly dependent upon your level of intelligence.
I don't know about y'all, but we worked long and hard to get our pay up to a level where we could make a decent living. And now these people from the future are showing up and offering to do the same work for next to nothing. They took our jobs.
Yeah, they took our jobs. They did.
It's affecting kids, too. Me and my friends started our own snow shoveling business. We were trying to be responsible and make money, But then the people from the future came along, and now we're out of work, too. Oh, they took our jobs.
They took your job. They took your job. Took your job.
So I was telling you several movies ago that the people that lived in this area, they say when the Jews left they were black, but when they come back they were white. And the Hebrew term for this was niggas. And the men of Israel was niggas in the day. And so that's who's racist, whoever's trying to erase this. The people who call themselves Jews today, they're actually gypsies. They don't know, they just know what they've been told. But I was reading down the 10 Commandments today. Right after the 10 Commandments, it goes to Moses comforts the people. And it says that these people that he was surrounded by had a thick darkness. They had to slip that in there because they totally give this niggas a different meaning now. And that means drew near, where they said before it meant the oppressed or the oppressors. And so they give this a different word number and give it a different meaning. But it's easy to see, the people were Ham. And that's what we call black people, the Hamites. There's the Hamites and the Semites and the Japhites, the 3 sons of Noah. So the Semites, Shem, they're trying to claim the place of the Hamites and say that they was the oppressed. They was the niggas. But if you play poker, if you can't win a hand, you're still in the game, You try to direct that money to a lesser player. Try to get the money going from a better player to a lesser player because you can win it from that lesser player easier. So today they want us to believe that white men are superior. And you have to believe it because that's what DEI is, Diversity, equity, and inclusion. and you try to send the power, try to send the money to a lesser player, and then you can take it from them easier. And so I'm not saying that white men are superior to anybody else. They're saying that. But I am saying, white men have a superior knowledge. Doesn't make them better. The black men are better singers. They're better dancers. They're better comedians. Women are better nurses. They're better nurturers. They're born with it. They can't help it. And just like white men are better poker players, and they're better at seizing power. So this reads a couple ways. You see it's got a couple words that start with an A that'll read backwards. And those same words have a tack on them. So the other way will make the other word read backwards and forwards. But this is amid. The I-O reads as an E. And amid, right up amongst them. And amid hammy. Rich comes the niggas, the oppressed, and all approve, backwards, the double L, this one reads the I, P-R-O, and O followed by the E, read it with a vav in between it, prove, P-R-O-V-E. That's the same word they'll say is Pharaoh, P-R-O-E. And all approve or fall. Assures. A final M reads as an S when you're reading the word backwards. And assures, a Shem, the Shemites, the Shem, hail him. H-A-L-E-I-M. And the hail him. And amid hammy, the double M here, second reading is an I, hammy, like Sammy, derogatory name for a black man. And a hammy rich comes the niggas. All approve or fall, assures Shem, hail him. But in the secrets of the Egyptian alchemy, the gods start with an A, and you'll see this is the same word as God sometimes. I think they'll give it a number somewhere around 420s and up there. This base word all is a long, they give it a lot of different meanings. Sometimes they say it means no, and that's because sometimes it means no. When you're reading it backwards, the L followed by the A reads as a N-O. And you'll see that all above here in all these thou shalt nots. L-A reads as a N-O. And the T is here. Not nap. Don't be napping around. And not nab. G-N-B. To nab. Steal. And not rexy. And I believe the Rex is drugs. Rex is drugs or the king. But you see all these thou shalt nots. They're all the L-A. Not you shall bear. L-A-T. Not. And not you shall covet. L-A-T. It's not read low. It's read N-A. N-O. Not. And not come. Not comed of it, not comed of it, however you got a hold of it, comed of it, and not comed of it, rock, and not comed the asset, his wife, asset, that's the Egyptian word for the wife, asset. And so that's how they get God out of this word sometime, and sometimes they say it means no. You see it one line up here in 20, where AL number 408 is now not. You see it followed by the T, and it's read the A word backwards, not. And I believe you'll see it up above here where it's just the AL they say means God. You see it in line 5, not, you shall bow down, not stew to them, L-E-M. L is a to, and an E is a T-H-E-M, and not stew to them, and not a bid to serve them, a bid them, and here's God right here, A-L. Same word for not, same word for this, whatever word they want to give it. But that's where the word God comes from. It comes from no and yes. And yes is the base word of Jesus. You see it in the Greek, the IHS or the YES. Whoever is the Rex, the king, and he's one who has a say, yes or no. So when you're reading it this way, it's still, and amid hammy rich comes the niggas, and then backwards N-O, no, and then E following the A, you read an S between there, and shore and pillars. Shore means strong, S-H-O-R, and shore pillars as mealum, and so these were the farmers. When we get rid of the Semites that's ruling America, the farmers would get paid for feeding, as a meal, M-E-A-L, a meal him. And amid hammy rich comes the niggas, the oppressed, no. The shore pillars, the pillar of society, the pillar of civilization, the farmers, the pillars as meal him. And so we weren't all created equal, and said God, let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the livestock, and over all of the earth, the vineyards, the sun's earth, the yards, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. That was on the 6th day, and on the 7th day he rested, and on the 8th day, creation of man. And these are the generations of heaven and earth were never created in the day that made the Lord God the earth and heavens. But before, there was a plant in the field, and any herb in the field, before it had grown, and it had not rained, and there was no man to work the fields, no man to cultivate. And so that was a different man made. So this man could cultivate and would work the field, but he couldn't rule. He couldn't rule everything, and he couldn't read and write. And so that was the way to tell. In the Greek, upon a color of negro, the every green field, the color of negro, and upon to a shore to negro, shore to strong, and strong to negro, somebody who works the field. Upon a color on negro, and proto, first to, and gives they epistages, their stance, where they stand. So in these past 3 movies, I've been talking about this old map of the Exodus, where they say that they crossed the Red Sea, and I guess I got the wrong covers or titles on them, not going over real well. But they're excellent movies. You're going to learn more from this movie than you will anywhere in the world. Well, I explain the writings on this map and what it means. But, the story is they come out of the house of Ramesses, and they come to cross this, what they call the Red Sea in the Bible. Except nobody called it the Red Sea. It was called the I Am Soup. I-M-S-U-P, M soup. And other places it's called the Gulf of Suez. The Red Sea is happening right here. This is the Red Sea. And so every year, this isn't 40-year trip. This is a month and a half trip that he's been making for 40 years. And he collects a bunch of people to go with him, and they go out here and work these vineyards and these valleys between these mountains. It's all vineyards. And check out those movies, and I'll show you Google Maps. I'll show you what's going on there. But you get them all on the boat here, and then you have them sign the contract. And so everybody who signs their name, well, he knows how to read and write. And that's this U-turn here. Send them on back. We don't want them. Everybody who puts an X on where they put your mark here, everybody who puts the X on, that's the ones we want. We want all you that can't read and write. We only taking Mexicans with us. We're not taking all you educated folks. You know, we want the sheep. We want the Exxon. You know, everybody who put an X on where their name goes, they know they can't read or write. They're uneducated. This is why the Christians wear a cross, the X on their neck. Their Exxon. It's a mark. And so everybody could tell from a mile away that he cannot read and write Hebrew or Greek. They wrote him up their own special little Bible in their own little language to keep them sheep. But they still wear the mark. Proudly, they wear the mark of the sheep, the Exxon. And I'll get more into this in the next movie, but this is the sheep here. This is the Lord. This is the AVE, Av, the have, and this is the Exxon, the sheep. The sheep, what goes on the table of sacrifice. That comes just a couple lines later after the 10 Commandments in Exodus 20. And it'll be idolatry forbidden. And the idol means the hide all. That means up your ass. And you see it when it comes up when Jacob stole the idols and hid them in his saddle, in his seat, up there in your hide all. And then just a line after that comes the altar of sacrifice. You know, and the sacrifice, you shall sacrifice, was bitched. B-C-H-T. U-Z, was bitched. An altar from the bitch. What's going on the altar, you know, is the sheep, the Exxon, the K at the end of it. You know, and the Vav followed by the A reads as a T-E. And them, double M reading as a I-Z, and them is bitch. And if an altar, and them is bitch. A venom to see. A lie not been. You know, a virgin. A tinge is it. Been stained. A tinge is it. And see, share back in, put all who tell. You know, the second L actually reading is a Y-E. You know, and who, and all who tell you. So you might think I'm being profane, but if I'm going to tell you the truth, if I'm going to tell you what it actually says, you have profaned it. You have to be profane. It's called the Vulgate. That's the name of this book. The Vulgate. The Latin Vulgate, the Hebrew Vulgate, and the Greek Vulgate. They're vulgar. If you don't like it, stick with your King James, written for the sheep, the Exxon, your Exxon. I'm going to cut this off here. And don't miss that. Don't feed the whales and ancient map reading especially. I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.